Okay, namaste everyone. So today it's our privilege to welcome Dr. A.R. Rajah. He has scored the All India Rank 7 in 2025 exam, right? And along with us is basically Navneet Kaur. She scored the 111th rank this year itself, right? So first of all, the big applause for both of them. A brief introduction about Dr. Rajah. He hails from the Chennai, Tamil Nadu, and he has completed his schooling from the DAV school, and by profession is a doctor. Completed his MBBS from the government Kodalur Medical College. Despite having the medical background, he has opted for the anthropology as his optional. This was his third attempt, and this year he scored the highest marks in the ethics, that is 138 marks. And he is one of the students who is continuously willing to basically guide our students. And earlier also when he came, he said, sir, I want to interact with our students and I'm going to share my journey, how to improve the marks in the ethics. Overall, he scored the 135 marks, 201 marks he scored in the interview, and 266 marks was having in his anthropology. Right? So we welcome Rajah as well as we welcome Navneet also. Thank you so much for with us. Right? Over to you. Thank you.
Very good morning to everyone present here. First of all, I would like to apologize for starting the session a bit late. So I was stuck in traffic. Yeah. So how many of you are giving mains here? Okay. Okay. Quite a few of you are giving mains. And for others as well, I will say that. Yeah. Yes. Sir. Mains. Yes. Sir. Yes. Yes. Sir. Yes. So for others also, I would say that even though you have not raised your hands, you are giving mains. So you should be writing this year's mains as the model answer, model test exam, because this is what I did in 2024. She also did in 24 when we both couldn't clear our prelims in 23 and 24. We did the same thing. We studied for mains and we wrote the actual mains as a model exam. So please do that. Okay. So the time period from now till December for you guys is to just stick to mains and then be mains ready, right? So without much further delay, we can start with ethics. Sir, can I use the board?
Yes.
Oh, pen. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So ethics is one paper where you can actually put in your efforts. And then you can see that you are getting a very good score, right? So now if you look at the general trend of GS 1, 2, 3 and 4, which is the most least scoring paper? It is most probably GS 3, right? So GS 3 it is like, even if I put in a lot of efforts, I won't be able to cross 100. So it's a paper like that, right? But then ethics is a paper where if you put in considerable amount of efforts, you'll be getting 125 plus for the same amount of effort as you're putting for GS 3. So it's like a 30 mark jump from 90 till 120, right? And then in my case, if on the spot or during the exam, if you're writing even better answers, you can even cross 130, which is like a 40 mark jump. So that is why it is very important that you focus on ethics. And that is why they say there are three things, right? Optional, ethics and essay. That is why they say these things are the most important. This is the reason. Because when you put the efforts in the right direction, you will be able to cross that 130 mark and get good scores. For GS3, if you put as much as the same efforts, most probably you will be scoring around 100. So that is the major reason why you should be focusing on ethics. The next reason why you should be focusing on ethics is that the subject itself is a very simplistic subject. Like even if you take the questions that are there in the PYQs of ethics and then you give it to some of your friends who are not even studying UPSC, still they will also be able to answer it because they are very generalistic questions. The questions are like about honesty, attitude and all those things, right? So that is a major reason why even I focused on ethics, and then from 23 onwards I have been putting in considerable amount of efforts, and that is why I was able to get this score this year, and I was able to top this year in ethics particularly. Now the basic aim of ethics as well as other GS papers is to differentiate each questions from another question. Like for example, in GS1 you have history, society and geography. The basic aim of us while writing GS1 is to differentiate a history question from a society question and a society question from a geography question. So similarly in ethics, the basic aim that you will be aiming to do in the exam is to make sure that your answers are actually ethical, because ethics questions are generally confused with which papers questions? GS2, because GS2 may you will have the topic of governance. So governance is very much similar to your ethics and governance as well. So the question nature will be similar. So there is high probability that you will write a GS2 type of answer in ethics, and that will obviously be, your marks will be getting cut down for that. So now, and actually, like the exam pattern, right? Like on Saturday you will have GS1, GS2, then Sunday you will have GS3 and GS4. So your hand and brain would have been so much used to writing GS1, 2, 3 that you will tend to write GS based questions in ethics, right? But ethics is more of a paper which is much related to essay. And if you look at the syllabus as well, what is the first point in the syllabus that they have given? It is? Sorry? Ethics in human interface. Like this is what most of us think, that the syllabus starts from ethics in human interface. But if you look at the UPSC official notification, above the ethics in human interface, they would have given 2-3 lines. Please do kindly go and read that. In that they would have said what the commission is actually checking from the candidate in the ethics paper. So they would have said that they check the candidate's personal attitude and the personal ways that he is using to solve the problems that are given there. So what we generally do for other GS papers is we study content and then we try to replicate the content onto paper, right? So we do the same thing for GS4. Each one of you will be following one or the other source for GS4. What we try to do is we try to replicate that source onto paper. But that is not what they want you guys to do. They want you to be original. They want you to be creative. So basically here they are checking that who is ethical. You are ethical. So you have to show yourself onto the paper rather than showing some coaching institute's notes on the paper, right? So this is the basic brief about the introduction to it. Now we'll go in detail about what sources to use and how to make notes and all those things. And then if you guys have any questions in between as well, you can ask them, or we can take them up at the end as well. Okay, fine. So yeah. So any part of the any part of the examination, if you take either prelims, mains, or interview, there are two major things like always that you should focus on. One will be the knowledge part and the other would be the execution part. So the knowledge part is basically what all you study for ethics, right? What all you gain from the sources that you use. That will be the knowledge part. But putting the knowledge that you gained onto paper will be the execution part. And why is this important? It is also very important because we ourselves would have seen most of our friends writing 2 mains, 3 mains, but still not able to get an interview call. Does that mean that they don't have the knowledge? Obviously they do have the knowledge because they have been continuously studying the same thing for 2-3 years. But still the execution part might be lacking. So that is the reason, right? So I'll be sharing both the sources, like both the things we'll be discussing in detail in this session, right? So for the knowledge part, as I said, any one good source is enough for ethics. Like there are a lot of sources available, and I'm someone who likes to peruse through a lot of sources because I have this thing called FOMO. So when I'm reading something and then someone else is reading another source, I'll be like, what if there's something new over there? This is something that we all have. So I will buy that also and then I'll look through it. But then the one thing that I did correctly was that I didn't follow multiple sources. I will look at the source, but then I'll keep it aside and then I'll just have one single source. So stick to one single source for you guys to understand the basic syllabus of ethics. So a single source is what is required to do the basics of ethics. For example, if you take the first point of the syllabus, what all does it have? It has ethics and human interface, then determinants of ethics, dimensions of ethics. What are the various dimensions of ethics? Do you guys have you guys read the topic, dimensions of ethics? There is one is normative, prescriptive. Have you heard of it? Normative, prescriptive, descriptive, right? Sorry. I'll use my hands a lot, so yeah. So there are things like normative, prescriptive, descriptive, right? So nowadays they are not asking much questions on the basic theories of it, but still it is given in the syllabus. So it is better to once do it. So select a single source that is available. stick to that source and then complete all the basic topics that are given in the syllabus, right? Now, the second part is the what else do we majorly use in ethics to write our answers? It is the examples that we use, right? So, now for collection of examples, obviously there are multiple sources. The first major source that I see would be your newspapers, right? So, what you guys can do is, while reading the newspaper, I hope you're all reading the newspaper daily, right? So, whenever you're reading the newspaper, always have the ethics syllabus at the back of your mind. Like when I was asking what is the first syllabus point, only one of you was able to say determinants, ethics and human interface. So what I want you guys to go and do first is memorize the syllabus of ethics so that you have it at the back of your mind. And then when you look through the newspaper and you find some or the other news article which can be used as a relevant example to any one of the syllabus points, then immediately take your the notebook where you have the collection of examples and then note it down, right? Because as I said before, the paper or the examiner expects you to be original. So when you get inspired by an example and then write it, it becomes your own example and not an example that you take from some coaching material or source, right? So like there is this very famous example that all of us use for civil servant. What is the most famous example that you guys use? For when they ask about a very famous civil servant, what do you guys use? Armstrong Palme. So this was what I had in my mind also. Did I tell to him that I'll be thinking of Armstrong Palme? No. But I thought of Armstrong Palme and he said it. Which means that everyone knows that it is the most used example, right? It doesn't, obviously he has done really great work what he has done. But then when everyone uses it, it becomes a memorified or ratified example rather than an original example. So rather than that, what I used to do was, like you can take, this can be the second point. So you can take inspirations from your locality, right? So I come from Chennai and then I come from Tamil Nadu. So I used to write IAS officers examples who did great work in Tamil Nadu, right? So their work might not be that famous across the country, but then they were very impactful. At least to me, they were very impactful. So I used to use them. So you see who is the IAS officer who's doing well in your town, in your city, in your district, in your state, and make those examples or as your own examples, so that no one else or at least no one other than you writes it, and then you are able to be original over there, right? So that is another source of your example. And then there is this another websites, a lot of websites are there. So then one of it that I personally used was Better India. So that was Better India, I'm sorry for the handwriting, Better India it is. And then it is, I personally use it because it was, it has, its presence is there on across all the platforms. Even if I open Instagram, Better India ka post will come. Twitter mein Better India will come. So even when I'm scrolling through social media, I'll be getting examples that I can use for ethics. So I followed them actively. Then I also heard that Indian Express is having, I hope you guys know it, Indian Express has some awards that are being given to civil servants. So that can also be seen to get the example. So the basic idea of getting examples for civil servants is that they should all be the ones that who have achieved it post 2020 or who are working post 2020, right? Like don't have any old examples. If it is relevant, you can use them, but try to bring contemporary examples. So these three are the major sources. Then apart from these three, keep anything else, any other source that you read for GS 1, 2, 3, they also become so anything that you read for GS 1, 2, 3, that also become good examples for your ethics, right? So when you read something over there and that you feel that it can also be used in GS4, then take a note of it also, right? So this is the basic knowledge part. Apart from this, you need not do much to gain knowledge for ethics to write ethics answers. So when you have a basic hold on a particular single source and you have a collection of 20, 30 examples, I would say you are good enough to start writing a ethics answer. Now we will come to the execution part, or how to write ethics answer. So first of all, you guys tell me like what will make an ethics answer look like an ethics answer, something which is different from GS answers. The What keywords? They are the ethical keywords, right? Then what else makes an ethics answer an ethics answer? Like let's say you're an examiner and you're looking at two answers, and which answer would you grade it more if it has ethical keywords? What else? Very good, yeah, that we saw before also. Okay, then ethical examples. One major part you guys are missing, which is what? Case studies is part of the question paper. No, not diagrams. Think ethical. No, just because you add the word ethical to it, it doesn't become part of the question, right? Part of a ethics answer. So not diagrams, not ethical diagrams. Just tell me what is the requirement. You guys are missing out on a most important part that you use. Huh? No, not like the things that you will use, the value additions that you will use is what I'm asking. Huh? Please be loud. Who said thinkers? Huh, you said, okay, yeah. So the major thing is the philosophers that you use. Philosophers or thinkers that you use. And this you guys you should have said it at the first itself. But okay, it's fine. But why are philosophers and thinkers important? Apart from using it in an answer, why are they important from the ethical perspective as well? From the syllabus perspective as well? Why are they important? It is a topic as well, where there is a topic explicitly stating that I think experiences, teachings from the lives of great thinkers, I think reformers, leaders. So like there are three things. So that is why you need to know about philosophers and thinkers as well, and you should be quoting them liberally across the paper. Anything else? Anything else that you would like to add to spice up your answer? So I used to use mythology as well. I used to use mythology, because mythology is something which is, why is mythology very close to us? Yeah, that is true. Why is it very close is what I'm asking. Because we have been hearing the stories of Ramayana, Mahabharata from our childhood. So they are very close examples to us. And then when you show to the examiner that I can take a very simple concept and then use that to explain ethics, then it will be very impressive for him. So any moral story that you have heard in your childhood, you are taking it and bringing it and writing it on the paper. And via this you are showing examples of honesty. Via this you are showing examples of impartiality. That will be very good. So that is why I used to have a lot of mythology based examples in my answer as well. So that was one thing. And then another thing someone told was quotes. So that also is important. Generally I'm not that big of a fan of quotes, but let's say you find the exact quote to match that question. It is a very good thing to spice up your answer. Last year, has anyone written 25 mains here? Okay. So there was a question you have written. Okay. So there was a question called "War is a diplomacy by other means. Critically examine the statement." Right. So in this, which quote do you think can be used? You should not be saying it. What is the quote that can be used here? So there is this very famous Gandhiji's quote called "An eye for an eye makes the world go blind," right? So that can be used either in the conclusion or in the introduction, because it is a war-based question, and generally war-based questions are asked frequently in ethics because the current geopolitical scenario is a bit choppy, right? So they generally link the current geopolitical scenario, the war situation, to ethics and then ask questions. So you can have this quote ready-made to use it. So that was just an example of a quote that I gave. Apart from quotes, another important thing is the definitions that you use in ethics, right? Because generally they ask you questions like what is honesty, what is integrity. Like we all know what is honesty, but to write it as a definition, how many of us know? So let me ask now, what is honesty? How will you write it as a definition? What is honesty? Like anyone can try to answer. Okay, leave that. So there is this thing called emotional intelligence, right? So whose definition will you write for emotional intelligence? Huh? Goldman's definition you will be writing for emotional intelligence, because generally people don't write the accurate definitions. So it is better to have proper definitions for all the syllabus points that are given in the syllabus, right? So if there is a point called impartiality, you should have a proper definition for it. If there is a point called non-partisanship, you should have a definition for it, because non-partisanship and impartiality, there are three things: objectivity, non-partisanship, impartiality. All three, if you look at it, somewhat mean the same thing, but then you should have a proper definition for each one of them so that you can show the subtle differences between them. So definitions are also an important part of your ethics answer. So you will be using all these things to make your answer ethical and also to get good marks. And this will be the basis of what you will be also doing, which is to make your, which is basically short notes. Okay, I shortened the short notes. Yeah. So this is what you will be using to write your short notes or make your short notes. This is particularly for people giving this year's mains, right? Again, tell me, when is the GS4 paper? It is on, not the date, but the day. It is on Sunday, and it is the last paper. So before that, how many papers would you have written? 4. Essay, GS1, GS2, GS3. So your mental state, like he would know because he has written mains already. Like the mental state that you will be there before GS4 is like that I don't even want to revise. Let me just relax for some time. I'll just go write GS4 and come. After that, I have 1 week to at least relax and then study for optional. That will be the mental state that you are at when you reach the GS4 exam paper. So, after GS2 on the previous day is done, you will be going back to home. That itself will take 1.5 hours. You will reach by 6. Then you will have some like snacks or something. Then you will relax. There will be only time to revise for GS3. Then you will sleep. Then next day morning you will again revise for GS3. Go write GS3. So essentially, how many hours you have for revising GS4? Just the time between GS3 and GS4, right? So only that time is there for you to revise. So in that, let's say you have your all the notes like this part, the single source, that book. Let's say you have the book. Will you be able to revise that entire thing within that 1 hour? It won't be possible at all, right? So it is better to revise the short notes and make and keep the short notes ready. That too, particularly what? The value addition part alone, right? Because this is the part that is actually going to fetch you marks. This is the part that is actually, like forgettable for many people. So keep a list of these short notes ready, right? So I'll just reiterate them. So the first short note will be the Western philosophers, right? So Western philosophers mein who are all there? You have your Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, then the ethical particular to ethics. Kant you have, Mill you have, Bentham you have all those people. Then Rawls, right? So you can also think of Hobbes as well here. So have a list of at least 10, I think 10 is enough, at least 10 thinkers, right? So have a list of them, and then below each thinker's name, you have a list of 5 to 7 keywords that they have said, right? So for Kant, it will be categorical imperative, right? Duty principle will come. Then for Plato, it will be allegory of cave. Then, do you guys know Plato's allegory of the cave? Yeah, fine. So then Aristotle, it will be golden mean, then virtue ethics. So like this, have a list of just the keywords ready, right? So for this, what can be the source? Any source that you use, that one. And then also I particularly used AI, right? I used to use ChatGPT, but I heard Cloud is very good. So you can use Claude, sorry. Claude is very good, so you can use Claude as well. So anything that works for you. So use that and ask him to also give you the keywords that the philosophies that these thinkers gave, and also play around with the prompt. Say stuff like, I need to get 130 plus in ethics, so please help me out, or something like that, or I need to write good ethics answers. So do that. It's not like that will make the him to give you more specific keywords and all, right? So that is there. So this is the first one, right? So next, we have done with Western, then the next would be Indian, right? So I want you guys to do a very similar thing with the Indian philosophers as well, right? So have a list of them ready, and then have the philosophies that they said below them, so that you can have it. So one thing was 7 sins of Gandhi, right? So that I used to write everywhere. The what all that he said, commerce versus morality, politics versus commerce without morality, politics without principles. So there was a list of 7 sins that was said by him. So I had them ready so that I can use them anywhere. So like this, have a list of philosophers, and below them have a list of the things that they said, right? So this will be your first 2 short notes. Then the next will be what you guys said, which is the what? Ethical keywords, right? So the source of ethical keywords primarily will be your syllabus itself. In your syllabus itself, you will have a lot of keywords that are there, which you unfortunately won't be using. So you should be using them, because they have already given it in the syllabus. Objectivity, transparency, all those things. Please do use them in the answers, not just for answers related to them, but for any other answers as well, right? Apart from these, the major thing that you should be looking for is synonyms, right? So now let's say there is, what is synonym? What is the meaning of synonym? Similar words with the same meaning. So have a list of them ready, right? Like for example, compassion. You take the word compassion, then have a list of synonyms ready for compassion, so that they themselves can become a keyword of their own, and then you can use them to generate a new point. The sole aim for us is to what? Generate points and then write. Let's say you don't have a point to write. You can use the synonym of the same value word that you used and paraphrase the sentence and write a new point. The examiner will look at it like a new point, but then you know that the content is somewhat similar, right? So this you can do. Then again, you can use AI to get good ethical keywords, particularly for the last 2 syllabus points. What are the last 2 syllabus points? Probity in governance, then public and human civil service values, like that it will be. So make sure that you know the syllabus end to end, okay? So those 2 parts of the syllabus are the ones from which most of the questions are being asked these days, okay? So for them, have a lot of governance keywords ready, right? So there is this thing called red tapeism, then ivory tower syndrome, then iron cage of rationality. Iron cage of rationality was given by? Weber, very good. So these kind of things, have them ready. So this iron cage of rationality, I used it in another 2025 question where they asked, a civil servant should not be a regulator but an enabler for growth. So in that I used iron cage of rationality of Weber, where if you stick too much to rules, what will happen? We won't be looking at the enabling part, we will just be regulating. So that is not the sole purpose of a civil servant, right? So use those governance keywords here. So make a list of these keywords ready. You might think that, okay, I have it all in my mind, I will write it, but that is not how it works. So have the keywords ready so that you can keep revising them again and again while you're eating or while you wake up in the morning, something you can keep revising them so that it gets imbibed into your vocabulary, so that you start using it in your sentences while writing, right? So that is there. Then will come the definitions and quotes. So please do have a set of definitions ready, and this most probably will be the first thing that you will be memorizing in ethics, all the definitions and the quotes to write with those definitions. Fine. Then comes your examples. Now for examples, what I want you guys to do is have a set of sectors ready. The sectors should be a bit current oriented sectors. Like for example, one can be social media, or let's say AI, or genetic engineering. Right, have some current oriented sectors ready made so that you can use them to get the examples. So this will obviously include the basic pestle as well, your political, economical, social, technological, all that pestle. So that should be there. Sports should be a sector. Then apart from that, the most important one that I feel is the personal examples as well. Right. Now you have these sectors ready. Now take the keywords. Now I have the keyword of honesty. Now in my personal life, an example of me being honest. A sports example of honesty, right? An example in social media where honesty was seen. So these things should be there, right? So take the keywords, honesty, integrity, each one of the keywords, and put them across the sectors and get examples. You can obviously recycle the examples. You can have the same example for 2-3 keywords as well. Ultimately, this should come up to around 30 to 40 examples, right? So have both aspects as well. Have both positive as well as negative examples, right? So because sometimes the examiner will ask us to show the negative angle as well. So have both sides offered, positive as well as the negative examples. Fine. So have a set of 30-40 examples ready, okay? And the sources, everything I said previously, right? Fine. Then comes your civil servants examples, which again I talked about it in detail, right? How to get it, I talked about it in detail in the first slide. Fine. Then comes mythology. Mythology also, what you should do is have it mapped to each of the values, right? So if there is a story in Mahabharata, have it mapped to the values of honesty, integrity, leadership, war. So have it linked to that so that you can easily use it, okay? So this is there. Then the last most important one, which I did not do during my prep, but once I saw the 25 paper, I knew that this is something which will be very useful for you guys who are preparing for 26. So what was that one thing that they were asking majorly in the 25 examination for each question? They were asking what? They were asking the measures that you will be taking, okay? So there was this one question about misutilization of funds, which was the last question. And then there they asked what measures as a civil servant you will be taking to prevent this. Then there was a question on code of ethics implementation. Then they asked how as a civil servant you will implement code of ethics. Then there was a question on personal satisfaction of a civil servant. Then there also they asked what measures will you take to achieve this. So they are asking the measures that you will be taking to achieve a goal, right? If you take the last syllabus point, there are a lot of keywords over there. So one is misutilization of funds, then you have code of ethics, you have citizen starter, you have work culture. So when you take work culture, you should now brainstorm and keep at least 10 points ready on how you will implement a positive work culture in your department as a civil servant. Okay, like we can brainstorm it now also, like how will you guys implement a positive work culture as a civil servant? Clear demarcation of roles and responsibilities. Code of conduct will be similar to clear demarcation of roles, and it is a similar thing. Anything else? Think in the keywords perspective. Absolute transparency in the communication between the various departments. Okay, so there should be no any opaqueness. There should be absolute transparency. Anything else? Very good. Always be open to the grievance redressal and be open to the grievances that are being brought up. Any other thing? Rewards is called what? What is the keyword for reward? It is 2 words. 2 words. Positive? You guys are saying it. Positive? Someone said it. Positive reinforcement, right? So these kind of, that is awards basically. Anything else? Again, the promotion should be transparent, right? Transparent promotions. Then between the people, how you should be doing? What should be there between the people? Proper? Communication we talked, no? Transparent communication. So, accountability, yeah. So accountability between the various departments so that each one of them are accountable for the others. Anything else? Collegiality. So this is what I was explaining. Collegiality, which is basically a healthy work atmosphere so that maybe healthy competition can be there, but it should not be a toxic work environment. So like this, sit together, brainstorm 10 measures that you will personally be taking for each one of the keywords that are given in the particularly the last 2 parts of the syllabus, and have them ready, because this is what they're asking. Now, if you had brainstormed the measures for misutilization of funds, when they asked that question in 2025, you could have answered it. So similarly, if now that we brainstormed work culture, now there will be a question. See, the question will not be what are the measures in which you will make a positive work culture. They give a very big prologue to it. and then they say something happened here, there, so all this is happening, it is affecting the productivity, but ultimately the question will be what measures you will take, right? So let the context of the question be whatever, but the ultimate thing that you will be writing is what? The measures. So have this ready so that you don't think over there, you think now itself, right? So these are the 8 things that you should be having as your short notes ready, particularly for the people giving mains this year, as well as for the people who are going to be giving mains. Have these ready for faster revision. Fine. Any doubts till now? You guys are understanding everything? Huh. In the future. But see, in the context that you look at them, they are a good person, right? Let them become, a person can become bad any point of time. Like, it doesn't matter. But at that time when you are writing the example, he's a good person, right? So it doesn't matter. Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Just ask something so that I can take a break. Any other doubts? Nothing? Okay, so we'll go to the execution part. So as I said, execution part is important for what? For getting the actual marks, because ultimately the examiner doesn't know you. He doesn't know that Rajah is writing the paper or you're writing the paper. All that he knows is that there is an answer copy to be checked, and there are 2 sides for a 10 marker and 4-5 sides for a case studies. That is all. So you just get 2 sides of paper to impress the examiner or show to the examiner that you're the best ethics person in the entire country. Like, and another thing also is there, which is basically I got 138, which is the highest mark. Does that mean that my copy is the best copy in the country? It's not so. It was the best copy checked by the examiner on that day. So ultimately, how many copies he might check on that day? 5 to 6 copies, right? At max 6. So in those 6 copies, if you are the best, then you will be getting the good marks. So the actual competition is the papers on that day of the examination, right? So that is the thing. So always keep this in mind. Even if you have not prepared, let's say the short notes, leave everything. Even if you have not prepared much in the knowledge part, don't lose heart. Write as much as you can during the examination and then get those scores. Okay. Now coming to the execution part, how do you answer the questions? In what order do you go? Generally for GS, what order do you follow? 1, 2 and 3? Because there is a different order for that and a different order for this. Very good. So this is what we all do: 1 to 5, 11 to 20, 6 to 10. This is for GS 1, 2 and 3. For ethics, are you following the same thing? Okay. So how many of you write case studies first, then section A? Vice versa? You write section A first and then case study. So I personally believe that you should write section A first, then the case studies. So I've talked to a lot of seniors and they mostly concur with this fact that case studies is somewhere you don't, score a lot, or even if you compromise a bit on it, it doesn't matter. So it is better to focus a lot on section A, in which if you compromise, you lose a lot more marks rather than you losing marks in case studies, right? So the paper is such that it is very lengthy. So one or the other section is going to get compromised, and it is better to compromise which section? Case studies part, because ultimately the answer that we are writing in case studies will be more or less similar to the other person's answers. But where can we show originality? In section A, right? So let's say I'm giving you 10 minutes to write a case study and 10 minutes to write 2 10 markers in section A. Which one will you be performing better? Most probably you will be performing better in the case study part. So keep the case studies to the last. And another reason why we should not write case studies first is that you will get fatigued after 1.5 hours. You will be constantly reading huge passages, writing long sentences, and you will get fatigued, and you won't have the thinking capability to think and write, generate points in section A, which is much more important. So I would attempt the paper as, again, this is my opinion. So the basic thing is that you should have a style of your own, right? So I would attempt it as section A first, then the case studies, right? And then for this 1.5 hours, and then for this 1.5 hours, And in this 1.5 hours, how many minutes for each case study? Huh? So it is like 15 minutes per case study. Okay. So this is the basic max behind it. Okay. Trust me, this is very important. You should be knowing the basic max behind. Okay. GS mein 10 marker ka how many minutes? 7 and 11 minutes for 15 marker. Okay. These basic max you should be knowing. Okay. So this is there. Fine. Now in section A, attempting the questions, do it from 1 to the last. So there is this one unique type of questions that they ask every year, which is a bit louder, code based questions, right? So how should I answer a code based question? This is a question that many people are asking. Okay. So what is the major demand of a code based question? What is the examiner expecting from you in a code based question? Your understanding of the code. Very good. Anything else? Okay. So what did you say first? Explanation of the code, examples, then the arguments. Okay. Counter arguments. Anything else? Contemporary relevance. Anything else? So among all this, the actual demand is what he said. They are asking you to show the contemporary relevance of the quote. They are neither asking you the meaning of the quote, they are neither asking you to write examples for it, they are just asking you the contemporary relevance of the quote, and in the contemporary relevance, obviously you will be writing examples. Fine. So the example should be what? Current relevant examples. So that is the actual demand of the question. And this is given where? It is given in the paper only. So 3A, 3B, 3C. So what we generally do, we look at the question, we look at the quote, we start answering. We don't read the question that is given upper, which clearly says that explain the current quote in the, explain the quote in the current context. So that is what they ask. Yeah. But Abhi, it's coming. No? So keep that in mind, or at least take a pause while in the actual exam, see if something is given. The directive might change. They might sometimes ask something else. So be clear about what they are asking, right? So read the question properly. So till now it is the current context, and I had also practiced this according to the current context or the current relevant aspect only, right? So generally how the structure is, this looks like the paper, right? This is the paper. Fine. Okay, so this is the which page? This will be the first page, this is the second page. Fine. So generally what people do is they take one entire page to just talk about what? The meaning of the quote. But what is the demand of the question? Which he said, which is the current relevance of the quote, right? So from which page should we start the current relevance of the quote? From the first page itself, right? So generally here will be what? Your question. This will be your, this space is for what? What is this space for? It's for the introduction, right? You guys know the IBC format. What is the IBC format? Intro, body and conclusion. Are you guys following something else? No, no. IBC you guys are following, right? So abhi tak no one has innovated in that. If someone wants to try and see, you can do it. No, it's always up to innovation, because all we do is, we obviously don't know how the commission is correcting the papers. All we learn is from topper copies. I learned from topper copies. So that is how, and then you guys will learn from my copies. And then from your copies, the next people will be learning. So that is how it keeps on going, right? So we all use the IBC format of intro, body and conclusion. So this part is for what? It is for the introduction, right? Now, the meaning of the quote, should it be explained or not? Even though they have not asked you to explain the meaning of it, should it be explained or not? it is better to explain the meaning of the quote, but just take some minor portion of it, right? Just take this part of it to explain the quote, right? So this will be the first half of the first page. Okay, so first half of the first page, okay, and then this is the second half. So consider this to be the second half, and from here you will be starting what? The current relevance, number 1 point, example, number 2, example, like that. Then it will go on till here, then here will be the conclusion, right? So this space, the first half of the first page is for the intro and the implicit demand of the question, which in this context is what? The meaning of the quote, right? So this is the format that you will use for other GS answers as well. There are two demands to a question. One is the implicit demand and the other is the explicit demand. Implicit demand is like it different for different questions in GS obviously, and then explicit demand is what they are asking explicitly, right? So that is there. So implicit demand here is what? The meaning of the quote. So that you will be writing here, and then the explicit demand will start, which is the what? What is the explicit demand here? The current relevance of the question. Fine. Okay. Now, this is a very good question. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot to mention. So, introduction mein what I used to do is I used to explain about the person who has given the quote, right? So last year the quote was trouble the trouble. Those who trouble the trouble, those during trouble are who are untroubled can trouble the trouble itself. So that was the quote, right? And it was given by Thiruvalluvar. So I wrote about Thiruvalluvar in the introduction. Thiruvalluvar is a Sangam age poet who has written couplets called Thirukural, a total of 1330. Okay, so that is the entire number of it. So this I will write. So if it's a Vivekananda ji's quote, then you will be writing about him in the introduction. If it's a Gandhi ji's quote, then you will be writing about him in the introduction. If it is a person whose name you don't even know, then what will we do? Then we won't be writing about him. That is what. So if you know about them, write about them in the introduction and then start it. That is the good way to start the quote-based questions. Then here you write the meaning of it, right? And then go on to the current relevance. Fine. So this is how you do go about the current context, or the way you do the current context of the quotes, right? Now, if I don't know the thinker, then you can just give a meaning, a bit more paraphrase, or give the essence of the quote in the introduction maybe. So that will be there. So in this trouble the trouble, if someone doesn't know the name Thiruvalluvar, so what they can write is, they can write about what is the meaning of the quote. It is to be unfazed during trouble or unperturbed during trouble. So you can write that in the introduction. Fine. Okay. Now we will take a question to brainstorm, if it is fine. Okay. So the last year's paper, let me just take it 1 second. So if someone has the PYQs, you can just give me. So this is the quote that they asked last year. So I'll just write it. Those who in trouble untroubled are will So this quote was very difficult for people who wrote last year. It was difficult for me also, but then somehow I was able to interpret it, because now we can sit relaxed in an AC room and then we can debate what this quote means. But there in those 5 to 7 minutes doing it is a bit difficult, but still this is how it works. So okay, tell me what the meaning is. Those who in trouble untroubled are. So what does the first part mean? Those who in trouble untroubled are. What does it mean? Huh? Those who are facing trouble, they should be not troubled by it, which is basically develop their mental resilience, be unfazed by it, be unperturbed by it, and all those things. So they should not take the trouble to their heads, and they should look at it untroubled, right? They will trouble itself, which means what? The second part of the quote means what? Will trouble itself. They will gain the strength to conquer the problem itself. So whoever is faced with a problem are unfazed by it, then they will gain the strength to conquer the problem itself or solve the problem itself. This is the basic meaning of the quote. Now tell to me or talk to me about this quote in the current context. In what all places can you use this quote? Current context mein. Any idea? Who's talking reciprocal tax? Who told? Reciprocal tax of?
Like sir, majorly many countries were reciprocating with USA, right? But India took its time to reciprocate. It was one of last countries to
Very good.
deal with US. You can say in that way.
Okay, fine. That is a very good current context. Anything else? COVID-19. How would you make it? Sorry? Okay, vaccination program. Then, how else? Okay, so the trouble here was COVID-19, and then we were untroubled by it by developing our own vaccine program and all, and then that helped us to conquer the pandemic itself, right? So what basically we are doing is we are taking current scenarios and then we are adding the quote to it and then interpreting it as such. So what I want you guys to do or brainstorm for code based questions is that have a set of things ready, okay? So first will be science and tech stuff, right? So in this you will have AI, social media, genetic engineering and anything else that you want to add, okay? It should be a bit controversial or things like that. Then next you can talk about IR topics. So he talked about reciprocal taxation of US, so that is a topic. Then the war in Israel is a topic. Then the war in Russia is a topic. So like this, have list of IR based topics ready, right? Then next will be the society, right? In society based topics, one can be us, right? Anything that is relevant or not us but individual. About an individual. Then it is about family, right? Then it can be about women. Basically all the vulnerable sections, children, okay, geriatric, okay. So all these, geriatric is who? The old age people, so that one. So have a list of society. Then comes the civil servant angle as well, right? So civil servants. So have a list of these topics listed out in your mind beforehand, right? Now take any one of it. So we'll first take AI. Now we have AI. How will you implement this quote to AI? What can be the trouble here when you take the topic of AI? So joblessness is the joblessness. Who told joblessness? Joblessness is the what here? Trouble. So who is the untroubled here during joblessness by AI? People who are upskilling, right? Then will trouble itself. So how will those upskilled people trouble the joblessness by AI? By rising above the crisis and finding or securing the jobs. So now we have explained the quote in the context of what? AI. Now take this social media for that matter. So how can you put the quote over there? What will be the trouble? What will be the trouble there? Anything, fake news or deep fakes or what? Reduce attention span. Okay. Okay, but fake news is a good example. Okay, how will you use reduced attention span here? So who are untroubled by it? One second. Those who are? Okay, so those who have effective time controls on the time that they do spend on social media. Someone was saying something over there. Same. Okay. So they will trouble itself. So now connect that and tell me to this example.
Efficiently using social media and not spending your time.
So preventing social media from distracting you or reducing the time span. So that is an example. But you will be using it by saying that the trouble is fake news. This is also a good example. You will be using it by saying trouble is a fake news and untroubled are, sorry, fake news is the trouble and who are untroubled over there? Effective fact checking mechanisms will be the untroubled people over there. Citizen activism may be very good. And then how will they trouble the trouble? By making sure that social media is not a space to spread fake news. So they are overcoming the trouble, right? So like this you can take anything over here and then put it. IR topic though, before I said he himself linked it and told us, right? Then COVID-19 is also a good one. So that maybe you can talk about in any current affairs topics. So that also you can have a list ready of current affairs topics. So Avi, football is going on, right? So football you can have it as a current affair topic. You can link it and then write, right? So what do you think? Are you guys watching the football? Obviously you won't be watching it. Sorry. So there is this very one good ethical thing that is happening in the FIFA World Cup, like something which is a very good example of it. What were you saying? What did they do? Yeah, I know. So you're talking about the inspirational journey of it. But how is it related to ethics? Yeah, I know. I'm watching the matches. Yeah, like I understand. Like how will you link it to ethics though? Oh, okay. But that is, you can maybe write it in essay, but for ethics, it's not a good example. She told it correctly, which is basically the Japanese fans cleaning the stadiums post every match, right? So Japanese, they actually lost then, and then there were memes which were saying, now they lost the game, they will clean the stadium also and go. There were memes making fun of them, but irrespective of this, they are doing it, which shows what? Shows a lot of things are there, shows their emotional intelligence, then shows that they are being very objective about it. They are not taking emotions into account. Just because I lost a match, I won't let go of my habits and practices. I'll still do that. So they are keeping it up, right? So this is a very inspirational thing that is there from there. So you can use that across the things. So I was just, because I mentioned football, I just talked about it. Fine. So like this, you can, from this list, you can take anything and put it to a quote and then find the current relevance of it. So women ka any trouble that women are facing can be used. Then children ka any trouble can be used. So anything can be used, right? So have a list of current context sectors ready-made so that you have it in your mind while looking at a code-based questions, and then you put it there and then do it, right? So this is how you do the code-based questions, which generally people find it very difficult to do, but it is very easy if you simplify it like this, right? Fine. So section A is done. Next we go to what? The case studies part. What is the first rule that I said about case studies? Always do the section A first and then move on to your case studies. That is the first rule, right? Then the second thing is introduction. Do you guys write an introduction for the case studies? Right? No. You should be writing an introduction to case studies, okay? So what will be written in the introduction of a case study? What? Who is speaking? Ethical. Okay. Anything else that you will mention in the introduction? Short summary of the case study which is there. Anything else? Very good. Current incident. Very nice. Anything else? Who is speaking? One second. Stakeholders? The stakeholders that are there. Okay. She told it. But it's good. Same thing. Anything else? Right. So it is a mix of what you guys said only. It's not the stakeholders. I'll tell you why. So first thing is identify whether it is an ethical dilemma or not. There are three to four major types of case studies. One is a ethical dilemma. What is the other one? Huh? Okay, but I'm asking it in the ethical context. Ethical dilemmas and conflict of interest will be one. Then crisis of conscience will be one. Okay, so ethical dilemmas, conflict of interest, crisis of conscience, or any ethical issue. So these are the major four types of case studies that are there. Let that be any type of case study, right? So there is, okay, I'll give one case study that they asked last year. So a person is working as a civil servant in Northeast India. He's from Kerala actually, and his father expired unfortunately, right? So now what will he? And there is floods and all happening over there. So now should he be there or go back to his home to do the last rites of his father? So now this is out of the four things that I said: ethical dilemma, crisis of conscience, what else? Conflict of interest. What is this? Ethical issue. What is this? What is this case study? It is a ethical dilemma. Anyone else wants to say anything else? Conflict of interest. Anything else that you want to say? Huh? Crisis of conscience. Okay, so this is actually an ethical dilemma. It is not a conflict of interest. Conflict of interest ka meaning is totally different. There was another case study where conflict of interest came into play, which is basically, I am a civil servant again. My son is a big or huge contractor. So he gets to know from me that a highway project is going to happen over there. So he wants my permission to buy that land or do something so that the value of it increases, right? Which actually happened in Madhya Pradesh as well. After the case study came, it happened actually. So this happened. So this is a what? This is what? This is a conflict of interest. Yeah, this is a conflict of interest. Why? Because my son is there. So it is in my interest, right? My son's interest. So it is a conflict of interest. So that is there. It won't be an ethical dilemma. An ethical dilemma is when both the things are what? Both the things are good things. Both the things are ethical things. Conflict of interest is when only one thing is ethical. Here, not revealing it to my son is the ethical thing to do. But then there is a conflict of interest because he is my son. So that is the issue there. So that is a conflict of interest. So know the basic meaning of all these things, okay? So hit the demand in the introduction itself. Say that the above case study describes a ethical dilemma. The above case study describes a crisis of conscience. The above case study describes a conflict of interest. So hit it in the introduction, which she said, and then add some current affairs. If you relate it to the current affairs, add stuff that she said, which if you find it relevant to something that actually happened, then add it to that and say it, right? So that will come. Then post that, what was the thing that you said? Someone here said something. You said something. What was it? Short summary. If you are not able to do both of these things, then you can take the safe route of a short summary of it. But that is not a very impressive way to start a case study. These two ways are very impressive ways to start it. Now, how many of you write stakeholders? Like this. How many of you write stakeholders? How many of you don't write stakeholders? So none of you write it, is it? Do you know what are stakeholders? Do you know that people write them in case studies? Do you write them or not? When it is asked, you write. Then anyone else who write it irrespective of it is asked or not? You write it irrespective of whether it is asked or not. So that is a wrong thing to do. Okay. So this was in fashion before 2020, where almost all of us used to write case study. Whenever it's a case study, we write stakeholders and then we used to write it. But now it is out of fashion. We should not be doing that. If they ask it explicitly, we will be writing, but they never ask it explicitly also. So this is something that people blindly started doing. I don't know why it started, but it still continues. So don't do it. If they're asking you, then do it, right? And then here we also write me and all those things, right? Me. Then we use public, nature, and all those things we write. That's not needed, okay? So you need not write it until and unless they ask you to, right? So this and then with this I come to the second part, which is to answer to the demand of the case study, right? So now let's say they have asked you what are the options available to you in this situation. So will you be evaluating the options? Yes or no? Please give your opinion. I'm not going to say anything if it is wrong. Ha. Ha. Keep it in your mind then. Why are you writing it on paper? It's just a diagram, but it takes up your valuable space, which you can use to write even more better points. It is a waste of space. Like let's say you want to waste space. Actually, you want to fill the pages, then you can maybe do it. But I won't advise doing it because that space I can rather use. I can put a better use to it. Is what I'm saying. Huh. That is where that I come to the next part of the question. I'll talk about that as well. Okay. So before that, okay, we'll complete that. Okay. So before answering to the demand, there is one more thing that I want you guys to do to see what he particularly said. See whether it is a 3-question case study or a 4-question case study. If it is a 4-question case study, how much marks for each question? It is 5. 3 question it is almost 7 marks. Okay. So obviously you should be writing more content for a 3-part question compared to a 5-part question. So now let's say I'm asking ethical issues in a 3-part question, and I'm also asking ethical issues in a 4-part question. So how many ethical issues will I write here and how many ethical issues will I write in the 4-part question? In a 3-part question, I'll be writing at least 8 to 10 ethical issues, and in a 4-part question, I'll just stick to 5 or 6 bus. That is all. So this mental clarity also you should be having. It is a 3-part question, so I should be writing more content for each part. This is what he said. The same thing that he said. So we should be writing more points for each part of the question. It doesn't mean that we can fill the pages using stuff that they have not asked. We should be writing more on the stuff they have asked. So let's say they're asking the options available to you as a 3-part question. You should be writing at least 5 options. And if it is maybe a 4-part question, maybe you can stick to 3 or 4 options, right? So this is the thing. And if it's an ethical dilemma, same. At least try to write 7 because ethical dilemmas are a bit difficult compared to ethical issues. So you should write at least 7 ethical dilemmas in 3-part question, and in a 4-part question 5 ethical dilemmas, right? So you know the difference between ethical dilemma and ethical issue, right? Ethical dilemma you will write as this versus this, always. There is no ethical dilemma without a versus in between. And ethical issue is never, which is the bigger subpart, the ethical issue or the ethical dilemma? It is the ethical issue. Ethical dilemma is a type of ethical issue. So you can write an ethical dilemma as an ethical issue as well, right? So the Venn diagram will be like this. Ethical issue, ethical dilemma. Fine. Okay. So this is, yeah. Write the, we should write the explanations. Yeah, we should be writing the ethical issue with the line explaining the issue. It should be written. For dilemma, yeah, a bit more shorter line because ethical dilemma itself will be a bit big, right? So it depends on the space, right? Fine. So this is there. And coming to answering to the demand, let's say they're asking you the options, just write the options. Do not evaluate the options. Do not write pros, cons, right? When I'm asking you to evaluate the options, then go for pros and cons. So some people do this very intelligent thing where there are 2 questions. So first question is asking what are the options. Second question is asking evaluate the options. They combine it both and then write the option, then write pros and cons. That should not be done. First question you should put the options. For the second question, again write the option and then evaluate each one of them. Pros and cons. Yeah. No, but evaluation doesn't change. No, we have to write pros and cons. So how else will you evaluate an option? But I personally don't do it. So this is my perspective. No, because we are answering 2 different questions. No, so here they are asking what are the options. Here they are asking you to evaluate the options. Are they the same question? No, right? They are different questions. What you're trying to do is you're trying to save space and time, and then you're combining and writing. So basically what we are trying to do is we are trying to make ourselves comfortable when they are asking us to come out of our comfort zone. So that should not be the case. So whatever question they're asking, please write to the demand of the question, right? So do not combine the question. This is again my opinion. It is up to you. You can do as you want, but this is my thing, right? Like even I took a lot of inputs from a lot of topper copies. I used to watch Garima Lohia ma'am. She got highest that year. Then before that, who's the most famous person in ethics? Vishakha Yadav's copies, ma'am's copies I used to see. Each one of both of them had different styles. Garima ma'am used to write it in paragraphs. She used to write it in points. Her handwriting was very good. Her handwriting was not that good. But then they all got very good marks, right? And my approach is a totally different approach. And I got highest this year. So it's like different. So you guys pick and choose what you want to do and then do it, right? So I will say that don't combine questions, write the questions as it is, because ultimately it is about what? Getting marks to each question, right? It's not about combining questions and writing and getting marks for the overall case study. It's about getting marks for each question in the case study. That is also very important, right? So this is it. Huh. Sorry? No, no, tell me. Yeah, yeah, tell me. Ha ha. Yeah, it will be there. So the option will be a descriptive option. So it will be like option 1, let's take the example of going to Kerala itself, right? So option 1 will be staying back and doing the work. Option 2 is going to Kerala for the father's last rites. Like this it should be written. Fine, no? Oh, okay. If they're just asking the options, that is what you're saying. No, just the option is enough. Just the option is enough. This is a good question, and let's see if it is followed by evaluation or not. Let's say it is not followed by evaluation, and they're just asking what are the options available, and the next question goes to which is the most favorable option and why. Then you can maybe write one more extra line, like write option 1, not staying back and doing the work, because work is the most important thing or something like that. Then next May going to the father's last rites, because this. So one reason for the option can be written. So that can be done. So it is a call that you have to take on the day of the exam, right? So if they are not asking evaluation, but let's say they're asking you to evaluate it in the next question. So anyways, you will be writing that over there in the pros and cons. So why are you repeating yourself? What he said? Why should we repeat content? So don't repeat content. That is the basic thing. Yeah. Tell me. So yeah. So okay. So the doubt here is that this is the basic difference in the stuff that we used to do in school, college, and UPSC, right? So school, college, mein what happens is we read source material, and then we go and write the the exact same stuff that we have read. So let's say we read about the process of photosynthesis in 12th, so maybe 10th. So we then go and write the same stuff that is written there verbatim, and then we come. But UPSC is not like that, right? So the notes that you make for mains, you will never be making the points that you will be writing in the, or the arguments that you will be writing in the exam hall prior. Why? Particularly in GS4. Why? Because a basic reason. Why can't you have all the notes ready, which you will be actually writing as points in the exam or arguments in the exam? Why is it impossible to do? It's a very basic thing. No, it is because we don't know what question is going to be asked, right? That is the basic funda, right? We won't be knowing what question is being asked. So I never knew that war is a diplomacy by other means is the question that they are going to ask. So the arguments for that question I'll be framing where? On the spot. So this please be clear. not just for ethics but all GS papers, except for a very direct question. Like last year GS1 mein they asked what are the features of Harappan civilization cities, then they asked Akbar's syncretism. So except for static subjects like this, for other subjects like the main subjects basically, the like society, social justice and all, where will you be forming the arguments? You will be forming them there in the exam hall. But so can we go without studying? No. But what will we be studying and going? The justification of the arguments you will be studying and going, which is what? Which will be all these things, all the short notes, right? So you will be studying and going all the short notes or the value additions or the justification parts. The arguments you will be brainstorming over there, right? Fine. So now coming to his question, he is asking that my notes are different, but the way they ask the questions are interrelated and interconnected. So how will I be able to replicate my notes over there? So the notes is just as a guiding aspect, or the like the notes that are there. They generally don't ask those questions anymore. They never ask what are the dimensions of ethics. They might ask next time, but generally they are not asking. So you are not able to what? Replicate the meta ethics, normative, prescriptive, all those things that you studied, you are not able to replicate. But nowadays they are asking obviously questions where you have to brainstorm on the spot. So what the person who asks should be doing is, they should be taking the PYQs of all the past 10, 12 years of ethics ka PYQs and start brainstorming, and then after the arguments are being formed, have the short notes ready and make sure that they are able to substantiate each of the argument with the thinker or the value addition that is ready. For example, if they say that war is a diplomacy by other means, first point I am writing by saying yes, it is a form of diplomacy, because war sometimes is the only way that we can like communicate or engage with another country, right? So this is something that I formed on the spot and then I wrote. So I will substantiate with what example? Any example that you want to quote here? Okay, so that is a type. Okay, I would write a more close to home example. I will talk about Op Sindoor here, where there is no other form of engagement with our neighboring country except that. So that is why we have, sometimes it is necessary to do it, right? And then take the look of the look at it at the perspective of your short notes as well. So the first part of the short note is the Western philosophers, and then that Kant says what? He talks about duty principle, right? So what is the duty of a nation? It is to maintain its sovereignty, right? It is to help or protect its citizens. That is the major duty of a country. So according to Kant's duty principle, war is justified in a way when it attacks the borders, right? And that is what we did in Op Sindoor as well. So I had Kant's duty principle written in my notes, and I used it to justify the argument that I made over there. So the person who asked what he should be doing is try to brainstorm the PYQs, try to make up points, and then validate the points with the examples or the value additions that you actually revise and go, right? So this is to answer that question. Case study you were asking something. Yeah, I'll tell you. So there are take 4, right? So these two will be your most extreme options, right? And then these two will be the innovative options. So one among them will be the middle path, and then the other will be a bit more innovative, point maybe. So there are a total of 4 points. So 2 will be the extreme points, right? So a total of 4 points. I'll come to that. So till this you guys are fine, na? How to write an introduction for a case study, how to see a 3-part question, a 4-part question, and how to answer to the demand of the question, right? Then comes the part which he was asking, the most important part in my opinion, which is the justification part. See, they want you to choose any option. So you can choose any option. You can either choose to stay there and work in Northeast, or you can choose to go back and attend your father's last rites. It depends upon you, because it is up to you. Each one of us is different. Each one of us, okay, you guys choose. What will you guys be doing? It should not happen, God forbid, but let's say if it happens in a case study, what will you hypothetically do? Stay back and work or attend the rites? Last rites, majority. As a civil servant, I'm asking. Yeah, obviously. Okay, so you will choose to stay back.
You can get to people and you can be in touch with house and everything.
So, what are you ultimately choosing?
Last rights.
Last rights, okay. So, who all are choosing to stay back? To work. Okay. There are. Okay, fine. So a lot of you are talking about staying back, right? So it doesn't matter whichever option. And some of you are talking to opting to go, right? So now let's say someone is choosing to stay back. What you can talk about is you can bring in what thinker to justify it. You actually said it. Which thinker can be used here? Duty principle of Kant can be used, or what he said. Lot of lives are at stake, which means utilitarianism. Greater good for greater number of people. So either one of them both you can use. So that is where the justification part comes, where you will be using which to justify, what all to justify. All the section A stuff that you studied, all this will come under justification part where you justify it. Now let's say there is someone who's choosing to go to the father's last rites. Now he is putting what into priority? He is putting his personal life into priority, but at the same time he won't leave anything and go. He will obviously be delegating it to someone and then going. So that shows a proper work-life balance. That is again what a section A topic. So bring in all the section A topics and the section A keywords, section A thinkers to justify your option, whatever option that you will be choosing. But to be very honest, the actual option that will be most probably correct here will be to go to the last rights only. Because see, try to be as realistic as possible, try to be as empathetic as possible, try to, okay, this is just my opinion, like in my opinion as a civil servant, if I am there, I will obviously be going, right? I put myself in that place, right? And the civil services is such an institution that what is the Latin term that they use? Not bureaucracy. What is the Latin term that they use? The thing that is there between the people of civil services, the civil servants. What is it? Which represents the camaraderie between them, which is what? There's something called esprit de corps, right? Which means like they're all friends, they're all together. So everyone will have that solidarity. So if something like that happens, obviously your seniors will be understanding, okay, let him go, it's just a matter of a day. So, and the bureaucratic mechanism is such that even if one person is, so even if you are not there, someone will be up there to delegate, or the delegation will take up such that everything goes smoothly, right? So that is the actual ground reality, and that is what will happen also if God forbid something happens, right? You can choose to disagree with me, like what? I agree. See, no, I agree. No, but this is what I am saying. So I will be writing all this in my answer, in my justification part when I choose it, right? I will make it such that the justification is totally up to the, totally justifies the actual option that I have chosen. No, it is up to you. If you are justifying your option, it is totally fine. But I am just giving my opinion on it, right? Fine. So this is with respect to case studies. Any other doubts here? So that will be your short-term measures and long-term measures. So in that I will give one piece of advice. What everyone does is write the short-term measures and long-term measures. What I would suggest is before beginning the short-term measures, write a bit about give a personal touch to the case study. Now you are being over there and you are going to take some measures. So will you immediately start with the short-term measures or the long-term measures? So first you will be having some emotions within you, right? So there was this one case study where they talked about you being a MG Narega person who takes care of it, and then you go to a place, you see that your predecessor has done a lot of bad work over there. He has not done, funds are not being allocated, or some cards are not being distributed. Basically the entire stuff is a mess over there, and you go into the office. So now what will be your first reaction? So immediately you should not be starting writing short-term measures. I will make sure that this problem will be taken care of, this problem will be done. So that is what everyone writes. But before this, what you should be writing? Let's say you are actually in there, how will you feel? So you should write that as well. So how will you feel if this kind of a situation arises to you? You will obviously feel angry. You will feel disappointed at your predecessor for doing all these things. You will feel compassion and empathy towards the persons who are affected. So all this will be there. So I will be writing all this before I start with the short-term measures. My mental state is such that I am disappointed and angry at my predecessors, but at the same time I will bring in my emotional intelligence to gather my feelings and start working on the project objectively. So I will write this and then start with short-term measures and long-term measures, right? And another thing that I do in short-term measures, long-term measures is that I always say that I take help from my seniors, I take help from my juniors, I take help from my batchmates. It shows that you are part of the system and you are not a superhero kind of a person who is just coming in, swooping in to do everything and then make it clean, everything like that and then going. You are still part of the system, you will respect the system. So that part you should be showing regularly in a case study that I am willing to work. So that is the thing, right? And then I also write a point always saying that whatever my actions may be, it will be taken under the rules of conduct that is being provided to me. Because we don't know what rules of conduct we have, but we write anything that we want. We write I will do this, I will do that, right? But then it is better to put a disclaimer saying all this I will do, but accordance to the rules of conduct and constitutional morality. So I'll put all these disclaimers in the beginning. I'll take help from seniors and all that, then I'll put this. Then before the examiner reaches the actual measures, he will have a soft corner for me. He will be like, okay, this person is ready to work properly. Then whatever mistakes I might have made in the short-term measures or long-term measures, he'll be ready to forgive it, right? Even if I have written an over-ambitious step in a long-term measure, then he will be ready to forgive. Okay, fine, he is doing it according to the rules of conduct, so maybe he will realize it is, or he is asking advice from his seniors. So then he might correct it in the future. So he will be much more forgiving. So the basic funda is to be as close as to reality as possible. That is the entire aim of case studies. Be as close to as reality. What you will be doing in the real scenario as a civil servant. Bring it onto paper, right? Fine. So I think with this we conclude it. I think nothing more to add. Now we will be open for doubts as well. Yeah. Obviously that you won't be doing. So political coercion is always there, right? Political coercion may the basic step that you will be doing is obviously not going to the public and saying that this person is asking me to do. That is not something we do. So the basic step that will be taken over there is explain to the MP, because ultimately who has to explain to them? It is us only. That is the role of the executive. The legislature will change every 5 years, right? And they are like people who are new to it. We are the ones who should explain to them. So we should also not be saying, putting the entire blame on him. We should be saying that he is maybe not aware of it. First I will make sure that he is aware of the ground situation and hope for the best. That kind of thing you should be writing. Fine. Obviously you won't be writing like I will be heeding to his words. That will become unethical. At the cost of being unethical, you should not be writing too much to the reality, right? But if that is true, then we are not fit for the services also. Like if the closeness to reality for us is being unethical, it means that we are not fit for the services. That also is there. Basically, that is what they are asking to find. What do you mean by sometimes the middle path is the most ethical path? Sometimes, not sometimes, most of the times the middle path is the most ethical path, right? See, there at the same time going to the media is not ethical in that aspect as well. But all we can do is keep explaining to him and hope for the best. That is the best that a civil servant can do, and that is what we will also be doing. So that is what you should be writing or taking up as your option. Fine. No, never. Will you be a whistleblower if you are a civil servant? Think in that angle as well. Never? You are asking me, it depends on the case study. Like let's say it is an attempt to overthrow India, like it is a military coup. In that aspect, obviously, you have to go to the media, right? So it depends on the case study. If it is a simple matter of him forcing, give the contract to my son itself, these kind of things, you cannot go to the media and say he is asking me to do all this. You will explain to him that, sir, this is a conflict of interest. Then he will obviously ask, what is conflict of interest? Then we have to explain to him, like, this is what happens actually in reality, right? This is what happens. We are the people who have to explain to them that this is there, sir. We cannot do all these things. I'm technically not allowed to do all these things, sir. So please do understand. This is what we do. Be as respectful as possible. We should not be overbearing also. Like that movie was there, right? Where a politician is fighting with a bureaucrat, which all will happen in movies only, right? So, yeah. Okay, so let's say you have done everything. You have made your content is perfect, you have good writing practice and still not able to get marks. You are completing the paper on time. It means that you are lacking in only one aspect, which is answering to the demand of the question. So get it properly evaluated, make sure that you are hitting the demand in all the questions. Like many people have come to me with their answers, they tell me I've written everything but I'm not getting marks, and they will be starting the demand from the second page. First page will be fully ramblings or just introduction and some value additions there. Value additions doesn't matter as long as you're not addressing the demand, right? So if you want, like, we can see at a few questions as well. Can I take the papers? PYQ. The PYQ, sir. The UPSC ka paper. So many people don't address the explicit demand of the question. So we'll just look at one question and then see how to address the demand. And if you do that in most of the questions, you're what? You're R1, right? If you don't do in some questions, you're R2. Then it keeps on reducing. If you're not doing it in any of the questions, you're out of the list. It's like that, right? So it is a relative game. Obviously, it's not possible to do it in all the questions, at all times, because then though it will become a very easy exam. 24. So I'll take it. So please. It's fine to do this, right? Do you guys want to do this? You're interested, right? Because after a point of time it gets boring to sit and then listen. So you guys also be a bit interactive and then now tell me in this question 1A, what is the explicit demand that they've asked? I'm sorry, I'm not able to. Is this visible? Are you guys able to see it? If not, there is phone is there. You can put and then see. 1A of 2025. What is the explicit demand here? What are you saying is the explicit demand? Tell it to me in a sentence. Tell bro what you said only. Writing the ethical dilemmas. Bus. Okay. What else do you guys think can be the explicit demand? So he is saying ethical dilemmas are the explicit. I want you guys to speak like this. Don't just say ethical dilemmas. Like, speak in full sentences. Ethical dilemmas of social media use is the explicit demand of this question, is what he is saying. Anything else is the demand in this question? The explicit demand of this question? Sorry? Challenges what poses? Ethical issues and challenges raised by social media. That is what demand. And then measures can also be included. Okay. Anything else that you guys want to? How?
The first line, the context is setting that social media has revolutionized our way of communication and interaction. We can use this, how it has revolutionized.
Where will you write it? Where will you write that it has in the? In the introduction. Okay, fine.
Sir, I am thinking how the way of communication and interaction generates the dilemmas and challenges. First, we need to explain them.
Ethical dilemmas and challenges.
How
Okay.
ways of communication and interaction generate.
Okay. So, see, in a way you guys are all correct, but be very careful of how much you write for which part of the question, right? So, this has two demands. As I said, what are the two demands? Implicit and explicit, right? Explicit is the demand where the what is that word? Derivative word, right? That is given, I think. Like describe is there. In some it might be critically analyze, in some it might be discuss, in some it might be analyze, and all these things. So whichever part of the question has this, that will be your what? Right. So this part will be your explicit demand of the question. Describe the key ethical dilemmas in this regard, right? So as I said, explicit demand should start from where and end where? It should start from the second half of the first page till the conclusion, right? So from the second half of the first page till the conclusion, you will mostly be writing about the ethical dilemmas in this regard. Now there will be some people who will also be wanting to write the measures. Like he said, he will be writing the measures. So a space above the conclusion, a small space can be used to write the way forward or the measures. But majority of the pages will be filled with what? Filled with the explicit demand, which in this case is ethical dilemmas in social media use, right? Now some were asking, like he told about social media has revolutionized our way of communication. However, it has raised several ethical issues and challenges. Now this part where they are setting the context, which he said, right? Setting the context. Now this part is the what demand? It is the implicit demand of the question. Now should I address the implicit demand or not? I should, right? And where I should be addressing? It is the same space that I told you for the meaning of the quote. Below the introduction and above the explicit demand, there is a space, right? In that you will be addressing this part of the question. Now this part of the question talks about what? It has revolutionized our ways of communication, but at the same time it has raised challenges. Now what should I be showing in the implicit demand? I should be showing both these things, right? I should be showing how it has revolutionized and how it has raised challenges also. But how should I write all this content in a very small space? That is where your flow charts and diagrams will come into play. So here I personally will be drawing a diagram like this, right? So I'll divide the coin into half. So this is revolutionized communication and this will be ethical issues and challenges. So here 3 points, 1, 2, 3, and then here 3 points. 1, 2, 3. Not points, but just small keywords. So revolutionized communication mein what all keywords you can write? Long distance communication, cross border communication. Then you can talk about communication to a larger group of people, or broadcasting ability is high. So these three you will write here. There will be a lot more, but just stick to just the topmost three. Then ethical issues and challenges mein you can talk about fake news, then deep fakes, then what she said, doom scrolling or attention deficiency. So that you will be writing here. So 3 points here, 3 points there, and all this is done where? In the first half of the first page. Fine. Then you start from the second half of the first page, you start with your ethical dilemmas, right? Now one more question ka demand you guys tell me and then we will complete. Now this is what type of question is this? This is a two demand question and both the demands are explicit demands. They are directly asking you what are the teachings of Mahavir, explain their relevance in contemporary world. This is a two demand question, both are very explicit demands. 5 marks for this, 5 marks for this. I think 3, 7 you can split it. So that will be it. So this is a school based question, school type of question. This majorly doesn't come, right? Now take this question. Now what is the actual demand of this question, the explicit demand of this question? What is the explicit demand of this? One who is devoted to one's duty attains highest perfection in life. Analyze this statement with reference to sense of responsibility and personal fulfillment as a civil servant. So what is the actual demand? Huh? Who's speaking? Importance of beauty. Duty in what? Fine, bro. Tell me. Importance in duty. Arey, these people will laugh. You say confidently. Tell me. Importance of duty where? Okay, so importance of duty and how it helps in getting highest perfection in life. Now that is not the demand of the question. So what is the explicit demand here? Look at it once more properly and see. Tell me guys, what is the actual demand of this? Huh? Are you guys able to see it, or am I blocking the board? So okay. Someone give me something so that I can work with. Tell me something. What is the actual demand of it? Huh? Sorry? So the actual demand is to analyze this statement with reference to sense of responsibility and sense of responsibility and personal fulfillment as a civil servant. So we have to be showing how sense of responsibility is related to personal fulfillment in a civil servant. That is the actual demand of the question. So this you will be using examples to write this, and you will be showing how sense of responsibility is bringing about personal fulfillment in a person's life. Now here there is also an implicit demand, which is to what? Implicit demand here is to explain the quote that they have given. The quote that here is given is, one who is devoted to one's duty attains highest perfection in life. So this may be what you get from this quote. So in a brief 3 lines, you can write what the quote means to you, and this again should not cross the first half of the first page. So that you will be writing over there. But the actual demand is to do what? To show how sense of responsibility is linked to personal fulfillment, and this question requires a lot of civil servants examples to write. So and another thing that worked in my favor was that I had that civil servant examples ka short notes, and I just revised it before going in, and then this one question is civil servant examples. I use 5 civil servants here. Then again this question is about a civil servant, right? Here I used a different 5 examples. Then 1, 2, then here again there will be a civil servant. So 3 questions. And there was another question regarding civil servants. So there are at least 4 to 5 questions just based on civil servants, and I was able to write 5 different examples of civil servants in each one of the questions without using your regular examples of Pame sir or Seshan sir or anyone else, right? Or even Sagayam sir for that matter. How do you use Sagayam sir, Sagayam IAS? Generally people write as example. How do they use it? He kept a board saying, here bribes won't be taken outside his office. Have you guys heard of this example? Have you or have you not? So this is a very famous example that almost everyone writes. And then T. N. Seshan sir's example though we all write. Then Ashok Kemkar sir's we write. So all these examples should be written or not. In my opinion, it should not be written. Right? They are very effective, but they are very redundant. So that is a major thing. Okay, fine. Anything else? Any other doubts? So, Which question? See, I don't remember the examples now. See, now brainstorm, or we all will brainstorm. How will sense of responsibility bring in personal fulfillment? What is personal fulfillment? How will sense of responsibility bring up personal fulfillment?
I think the question is asked how duty is related to sense of
one who's devoted to one's duty means what? He is a responsible person. That is what they are saying. That is nothing but sense of responsibility, right? There is no much difference between this and this. It is the same thing. So how will sense of responsibility lead to personal fulfillment? Sorry? You are giving me this Gita's philosophy of karma. Will I write it as an argument or will I write it as an example? I'll write it as an example. Now tell me your brainstorming is correct. You went from your notes and you have written it as the example. Now brainstorm an argument for it and write it upper as the actual point. Gita's sense of what were you saying? Karma, right? So one point that you can write is even the mythologies and the tradition that we have has always historically linked what? Our duties to attaining a sense of perfection or elevation in life. Example, what you said? Repeat it. Don't explain it, but just tell me what you will write. Example, Gita's, that is all. Fine. This is one point that you guys said. Anything else? Second point. So personal fulfillment doesn't just happen from the personal space, professional space. It also happens in both the fronts. It happens. Professional front also it happens. Personal front also happens. So when you have a good sense of responsibility, you will obviously be doing good at work, and you will also be getting the timely promotions and all those things, right? And since you are doing so well at work, obviously that will translate to what? To your home as well, and your personal life will also be good. If you are obviously getting good promotions and you are in a good state of mind, it will obviously translate to a happy family as well. So that is how professional life will help in personal life as well. So that is there. And then here one example, since he asked what examples I wrote, I remember there is an example of an IAS officer in my state again. So his name is Jayaseelan sir. So what he did was, and it was in Better India as well. So what he did was he created a colony just for the the transgender persons, right? So he brought up a colony just for them, and then they repaid the kindness by naming the colony after him. So this is something which goes beyond a job just done. Now he is getting the blessings of everyone, and then he is also getting the personal fulfillment of seeing that forever his name will be as a part of their colony. So that is something which he has made a long lasting impact. So this argument here can be making long lasting impacts and changing people's life will make sure that you get that personal fulfillment, right? So example, this point. So like this, write arguments. You think from your own perspective. If I do something good at work, how will it affect how will it positively affect my perfection in life? So that is how you have to be looking at it. Okay. So this is it. Abhi I'm not able to think of examples because it's been almost a year since I studied here. So that is there. Fine. Anything else? Any other doubts you want to ask? All the best. Yeah. At least 10 points. Yeah, 15 for 15. Obviously, it's my 15 mark and 10 points. 10 points. Yeah. The page should look complete, right? You can look at my answer copies as well. Have you guys seen my answer copies? Yes. So those who have seen can send it to others. You can. Yes. Yeah. I'll share with Ankur sir. Sir will send it. I'll also maybe share my channel as well with sir. Telegram where you can see stuff. So for mains people I'm doing something separately, so you guys can join that channel as well. So I have two. One is for the overall one, and then for main specific people I'm doing some stuff. So that is there. Okay, fine. Any other doubts? Okay. Okay, fine. So all the best for your mains, and for people who have not cleared, don't worry, like I've also been in the same situation. Now it will be like a directionless thing, right? You will be like a ship who's lost, because now the entire focus is on who? It's on the people who are writing mains, right? I used to be very irritated by these people because because I literally write better answers than them. That happened to me when I wrote, when I was in 2024, I failed prelims. I sat with them and I was writing. They used to look at my answers for reference, but then unfortunately I was not able to write mains there. So that frustration will be there. Show that frustration in the next attempt. Once you clear prelims, it should be like you should take it in one go itself. So that should be the aim, right? So all the best for that. So keep working, keep pushing hard, okay?
Thank you, Rajah. I hope this was a very insightful session for all of you, right? Many of the students who are basically appearing for the 2027, some of you are appearing for the 2028 also. So you got to know this thing that it is not something that is impossible, right? He also didn't got successful in the 2 prelims. Third time he came directly to the All India rank 7, right? So that much of the perseverance is there. And thanks once again, Navneet, to you also to come here. We were having the discussion that yes, she was praising all of you that the students are good, right? I said, don't worry, we'll deliver the good results also, right? So thanks once again to all of you. Thank you so much.